Okay, so I bought a home a few years back. I was at a similar job, earning a similar wage at that time, and I know what I was pre approved for at the time. So I don't really need to get pre approved until I find the home that I want, because I already know the value that they will lend to me since I did it before.
Based on the pre-approval from a few years ago, you know exactly how much you're going to get pre-approved for. You don't need to do any of the diligence work. There's no point in getting started until you find the home that you like. All right, let's examine, please. A few years ago, right, was probably a different interest rate. That's a different loan. A few years ago, you might have had a different credit score. That's a different loan. On the first property that you purchased, you might have had, making up numbers here, $10,000 in taxes. This new property might be an upgrade, right? And your local taxes, property taxes might be 15 or 18 or $20,000, right? Or in some neighborhoods in some of the counties that I serve, I've seen taxes as high as 30 or 40,000 or even more. That's a little bit elevated, and perhaps not the vast majority of them, but I've seen some very, very highly taxed homes. And the tax differential comes into play, so that's a different loan. The fact that you now own a home, right, and you're going to buy now a second home or a third home or whatever it may be, sometimes the bank views that as a potential investment opportunity, and you now went from becoming a home buyer, owner, occupant of a one-time purchase. You're going to live in the home, a one house sort of occupant, to being an investor, right? You might own two properties, might own three, might own four. And when that status from being an owner occupant in the eyes of the bank, when that status from being an owner occupant changes into that of you being an investor, right? Even if you're not planning on renting it out or flipping it or whatever have you, maybe it's a second home for you for vacation or something like that. You're planning on using it. You're really not using it for investment purposes, but it doesn't matter necessarily. Sometimes in the eyes of the bank, they may view that as an investment property nonetheless, and they reserve their right at that point to perhaps elevate the interest rate based on the type of loan that you're doing and then on the situation. So that's a different loan, okay? Also, the fact that you are now carrying at least two properties because you bought a home a few years ago, you're buying a new home now, you're going to have to be able to cover the closing costs, the down payment, plus both mortgages, right? And by the time you get done doing all that, what leftover assets do you have to sort of pay utilities or other bills that you might have, be it credit card bills or just general sort of everyday living related bills, right? Can you even swing that loan? And in your opinion, the answer might be yes, but this is a different loan. Before, you were only the owner of one home. Now you're going to be the owner of two or more. So that's a different loan in the eyes of the bank. So anyway, to summarize here, to get to the point and close out on this question, the fact that you purchased a property a few years ago or even last year, and your income is relatively the same, and your credit score may be similar. A lot of things might be very similar, but it's still, in the eyes of the bank, a completely different situation. And the data that they collect is certainly going to take precedence over our opinions, right? So I hope that this is helpful and fruitful and helps you to make a positive decision. And I would say that I thank you so much for listening.